Hello student, myself is Dr. S.V.K. Khairnar, Associate Professor in Botany at MEP Samaj S.V.K.T College, Devdali camp. In this series of videos, we are learning the plant morphology and anatomy topics. So, in the earlier video, we were studied about the sexuality in flower, means flower is unisexual, bisexual, then parts of the flowers. Flower possesses the four different parts: calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Then how these parts are inserted on the surface of the thalamus or in a different floral whorls, that also we were studied. And lastly, in the last video we were study the Morohology of flowers. Under the Morohology of flowers, we were seen the actinomorphic flower, zygomorphic flower comes under the regular kind of flower, and non-actinomorphic flower, that is a irregular kind of flower. Today we are going to see the next topic in the same unit. So today we will going to see, or we will going to learn more about the whorl of a flower, that is a calyx. Our today's agenda is, today we want to see or learn estivation. What is meant by estivation? What are the different types of estivations are seen in the floral buds? Then we also want to see what is meant by calyx. We have to learn more thing about the calyx. So under calyx we have to see the basic types of calyx, then what are the modifications are takes place in the calyx, then what is a function of calyx. These topics we want to learn in our today's video. So what are the learning objectives of our today's topic? So learning objectives are to know what type of estivations are seen in the flower, what is estivation, and how the floral parts, especially calyx and corolla, are arranged in a bud conditions. That is what the kinds of estivation. We also want to see or study the calyx and its nature. What is calyx? What are the different kinds of calyx are developed in a flower? Then we also want to see or study the modification in the calyx. What kind of different modifications are takes place in the calyx? And lastly, we also want to see, or our last learning objectives of today's topic is to study the function of calyx. What kind of function is having a calyx? So these are what our today's learning objectives. With concern to these objectives, we will going to see this video. So first topic we will see estivation and types of estivation. So first of all we will see what is meant by estivation. Estivation is studied in the bud condition of a flower. So what is meant by estivation? Estivation is a mode of arrangement of sepals and petals in their concerned whorl with respect to other in bud condition of a flower. Means when flower is in a bud condition, that time how these two whorls of a flower, calyx and corolla, are arranged, and their arrangement in bud condition is what considered as a estivation. So this estivation we want to learn, and there are different types of estivation we want to learn today. So what are the type of estivation? The first type of estivation is valvate estivation. What is meant by valvate estivation? You can see the images at the side. So there are two diagrams. In the first diagram you can see there are 5 sepals, and these 5 sepals are present in a ring, but they are just lying one after the another, and there is no overlapping in between their ends. Okay, so this kind of estivation is what a valvate estivation. What is meant by valvate estivation? The floral leaves in a whorl may just touch one another at margin without overlapping. So they remain in touch with one another, but there is a no overlapping in their margin, and that's why the each calyx or each petal may lie just one next to another without overlapping, and this kind of estivation is considered as a valvate estivation. The figures are very well explaining you the kind of valvate estivation. This kind of estivation is occurs in the many plants flower, but for your convenience I have mentioned here the examples of the very common plant flower, and that are what the flower of Anonnaceae you will see the valvate estivation. Even in the flower of Mimosaceae you will see the valvate estivation. Then what are the next type of estivation? The second type of estivation is considered as a twisted estivation. You can see the figure and compare the figure with the earlier type of figure. Here also you will see the 5 parts. So you may consider that may be a calyx, sepals or petals. These 5 sepals or petals, they are just lying in a circle, but their one end is always overlapped by the another sepal or another petal, and that's why the one end of each unit is going to be overlapped by the another unit. So what is meant by twisted estivation? When overlapping is regular in one direction, so that one margin overlaps the next member on one side, while its other margin is overlapped by the one before, so giving a twisted appearance to the bud condition, and this type of estivation is what called as a twisted estivation. You can see this is what a flower, and when these flower petals or calyx are just twisted, so their ends may overlap by the one another, and that is what called as a twisted kind of estivation. The very common example of twisted estivation is what? A flower of hibiscus. You may see the twisted estivation in their corolla or petals. The next kind of estivation, that is what? A imbricate estivation. So this is somewhat different, again the earlier type. You can again compare this estivation with the earlier 2 types, especially that are what? The valvate and twisted estivation. Here also there are 5 limbs in a bud of a flower. You may consider that may be a sepals or petals, but here you can see in these 5 limbs the one limb is completely outside, means they are remain completely towards the outside. Their both margins are remain free. Again opposite to that the another limb that is remain completely inside, means their both margins are overlapped by the surrounding units. It means what? One petal or one sepal is completely inside, one petal or one sepal is completely outside, and remaining 3 are alternate like a twisted estivation, and that's why this kind of estivation is called as a imbricate estivation. When the margin overlap one another, but not in a particular order or not in a one direction, and that's why here one petal or sepal is inside, one is outside, and remaining 3 are having a alternate overlapping, and that gives a imbricate kind of estivation. You can see the imbricate estivation is also very well explained in this figure. One leaf of calyx or petal, sepal or petal seen completely inside, one seen completely outside, and remaining 3 are alternate. The example of this kind of estivation is what? The flower of Caesalpinia. Again 2 more types are there. The next type of estivation, that is what considered as a quincuncial estivation. This is what a just modification of a imbricate kind of estivation. We have already seen that in imbricate estivation one petal or one sepal unit is inside, one is outside, and remaining 3 are alternate. Here the 2 units are inside, 2 are outside, and only one is remain alternate, and this is what a kind of estivation called as a quincuncial estivation. So what is quincuncial estivation? The floral leaves are not in a whorl but spirally arranged. 2 sepals or petals are completely outside, 2 are completely inside, and one is remain alternate. You can see the figures are showing the clear picture of quincuncial type of estivation. The two sepals, or you may consider two petals, are completely outside, two are completely inside, and one is remain alternate, and this is what a quincuncial kind of estivation. And a example of the quincuncial kind of estivation is what? A flower of guava. The last kind of estivation, that is a special type of estivation, and also that is a characteristic feature of flower of one of the family, and this kind of estivation is called as a vexillary estivation. So, I have already mentioned you that this is a typical estivation or special kind of estivation. This kind of estivation occurs in the papilionaceous corolla, and papilionaceous corolla is a kind of flower of a family Papilionaceae. So, this is a characteristic feature of family Papilionaceae, where you will see the vexillary kind of estivation. Here the nature of corolla is also special, that is a papilionaceous kind of corolla. That corolla has a 5 petals or 5 sepals. Among that, the one posterior one, that is a larger sepal or larger petals, then two side one are somewhat smaller, and again two lower are somewhat smaller. So, what exactly the vexillary estivation is? This is a typical kind of estivation occurs in a papilionaceous corolla. Here the large standard petal overlap the ends of wing petals. You can see in the figure the posterior larger petal that overlaps the one end of side wing petal. Then the wing petals again overlap the upper ends of the keel petal. So, in this way the diagram or the picture looks like a papillon or like a butterfly, and that is why this kind of corolla is what called as a papilionaceous corolla, and this is what a estivation called as a vexillary estivation. This is what a kind of zygomorphic flower in which only you will see the vexillary kind of estivation. The example of vexillary estivations are the flowers of family Papilionaceae. These are what the types of estivations occurs in the flower. So, why we studied earlier these estivation? Because we have to learn in the flowers what kind of estivation is seen in their corolla and in their calyx, and that is why this is what a common topic with concern to calyx as well as corolla. Now, we will see the modifications in the calyx. First of all, we will see what is meant by calyx. Calyx is the outermost whorl of a flower. It is considered as a non-essential whorl. Mostly it is a green in color. It is like a small leaf appendages surrounding the inner part of a flower. It may be a gamosepalous in nature or it may be a polysepalous in nature. When it is polysepalous in nature, the units of calyx, that is a sepals, are remain free from one another, and when it is a gamosepalous in nature, the units of calyx sepals that are united and they may form like a tube-like structure. So, these are the basic kinds of calyx: polysepalous calyx and gamosepalous calyx. In polysepalous calyx, sepals are remain free. In gamosepalous calyx, sepals are remain united. You may also see the diagrams diagrams of the polysepalous kind of calyx and gamosepalous kind of calyx. The first figure, that is what indicating the polysepalous nature of calyx, and second figure, that is indicating the gamosepalous nature of calyx. In first figure the sepals are free, in second figure the sepals are united. Now, we will see the exact modification of the calyx. The calyx shows the different kinds of modifications and they have given the different names. For example, the first kind of modification we may see in the calyx, and that is what called as a pappus calyx. Here you can see the calyx are remain persistent, and they are at the top of a fruit, and they are like a hairs, top hairs. So what is mean by pappus calyx? In some plants flowers, sepals are modified into a hairy structure, or in a or like a stuff of hair at the top of seed when flower is inferior, and that top hairs are like a parachute, and this kind of calyx modification is what called as a pappus calyx. The example of this kind of calyx are occurs in the disc floret of a sunflower. Then the second kind of modification, that is a petaloid calyx. Generally I have already mentioned you that the calyx are green color. Okay, they are not much showy, but what happens in some plants, their flower is very small, and that time the attraction of the insect for pollination purpose, this function is given to the some other organ, and that's why here what happens, from the 5 sepals, the one of the sepal may become say enlarged like a petals and becomes a colorful. Here you can see in the figure. In the figure you are looking that the flower is very small and whitish in color, that may not much attractive, but below that one of the limb of a calyx or one of the sepal is becomes a enlarged like a petal or like a leaf and become a colorful. So at this in this kind of modification is what called as a petaloid calyx. Here one of the calyx is enlarged and become a bright color for attraction of the insect for the purpose of pollination. So this is what called as a petaloid calyx. The example of petaloid calyx you will see in the flower of musenda. The next modification of the calyx, that is a spinous calyx. So calyx are becomes like a spines. Here you can see there are persistent calyx, and they are seen modified into a spines. In some plant flowers, sepals are persistent and modified into a spines, and this kind of modification in the sepals are considered as a spinous calyx. So sepals are like a spine. Example of this kind of modification is what a flower of trapa. Then the next kind of modification in the calyx, that is what called as a spurred calyx. You can see the figure of flower of a Impatiens balsamina or terda. In Marathi we may call this plant as a terda. So here flower is pink color, and you can see the lower outermost whorl, that is a calyx, but one calyx is giving long cylindrical appendage like structure, and that appendage like structure is considered as a spurred. So that's why this kind of calyx are called as a spurred calyx. In this type, from the base of the one of the sepal, a tubular outgrowth is arised called as a spurred, and this is what this kind of calyx is called as a spurred calyx. A example is already given, that is what a flower of Impatiens or terda. In rainy seasons you may see the lot of terda plants are growing, and they are having the spurred calyx. So these are what the different kinds of modifications in the calyx. We have saw the different modifications like pappus calyx are there, then petaloid calyx are there, then spinous calyx are there, and spurred calyx are there. Now we will going towards the next point of our video, that is function of calyx. What are the different functions are having a calyx? I have already explained you that calyx is a outermost whorl. Mostly it is green in color. It is not more attractive. Then what are the main function of calyx? Now we will see the main or chief function of calyx. The chief function of calyx is to enclose and protect the inner floral whorl in the bud stage. We know that flower has a 4 whorls. The outermost is a calyx, and the remaining 3 are inside 2 calyx, and that is why to protect that inner whorl is a main function or chief function of calyx. So, calyx protect the inner whorls of flowers during the bud stage. The another function is what, generally it is of green color and can also do the subsidiary function like a photosynthesis, because it may has a presence of chlorophyll pigment and it may help or it may do the photosynthesis, and it may prepare or help for food preparation. Sometimes there are colored modifications are takes place in the calyx, and when the color modifications are takes place in the color, so that time that modification is purposely occurs for doing a function of attraction of insect for the pollination, and when the calyx are colored, that time they may do the function of attraction of insect or bird for pollination. They also save inner floral parts from the natural damages. So, these are what the some typical functions of a calyx. Now, in this video we learn the floral whorl calyx. So, what is calyx? What are the types of calyx? What are the modification of calyx? What is a function of calyx? That things are we learn in this video. Now, we will just summarize what we learn in this video. Estivation, we first learn the estivation, that is what, arrangement of sepals and petals in bud conditions. There are 5 types of estivations: valvate, twisted, imbricate, quincunxial and vexillary. Then types of calyx we learn, that is polysepalous calyx, gamosepalous calyx. We also learn the modification of calyx: pappus calyx, petaloid calyx, spinous calyx and spurred calyx. These are what the topic of our videos. So, here we learn the one of the floral whorl calyx in detail. So, what will be the assignment asked on this particular topic? The probable assignment will be asked on this topic, that is state function of calyx. Then next kind of question, that is what is calyx, describe the modification in calyx. So, these are the most probable question may cover the entire topic of calyx. What we will learn in the coming video? In the coming video we will learn the next floral whorl, that is a corolla. Like a calyx, we will also see the forms of corolla, function of corolla. So, student, this is what our today's topic, that is a study of floral whorl calyx.